Welcome to Indianapolis for this very special Friday edition of Breaking the Huddle. I'm Joel Klatt. This show is sponsored by Dr. Pepper. Remember, at every tailgate and home gate, it is the one that fans crave. I love these special Friday editions of Breaking the Huddle, and we've got a really cool show for you. We're going to take you back in history of the Big Ten Championship a little bit, and then obviously preview this game. We're going to have a Heisman Trophy winner with us as well. Former Buckeye Troy Smith will be alongside, and we'll break down this Ohio State Northwestern showdown that we're going to see on Fox in primetime tomorrow night on Saturday night here from Lucas Oil Stadium. Some quick thoughts on the game first and foremost. We saw the most complete game that Ohio State has played all year long in the most important game last weekend against Michigan. That was their best 60 minutes by far of the season, maybe save for the very first week, but that was against Oregon State. And they didn't even have their head coach at the time. Remember, Urban Meyer was suspended for the first 3 games. Their effort on the offensive side of the ball was tremendous. 62 points against the team up north. That's incredible. Dwayne Haskins was brilliant, but even more so than Dwayne, it was the time that he got in the pocket via that offensive line. They were sensational. That vaunted pass rush from Michigan had no chance to get to Dwayne Haskins. He was clean. He was upright most of the game, and he picked apart that secondary in the back end. That wide receiver core was special. KJ Hill, Paris Campbell. How about the speed of Paris Campbell? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He just ran away from everybody. He ran away from the world down the right sideline into for that touchdown there last week. It should be a great game this week, though, because the style that Northwestern has specifically on defense is actually better suited to play against Ohio State than Michigan's style. They're not going to be in man coverage. They maintain their levels of defense. They have what I would call a bend, don't break style of defense. So I don't think that individually their players are better than Michigan's players, as much as it is their schematics are more suited to face up with Ohio State. The speed and the skill of Ohio State will be nullified to some degree because of all the zone coverage and all the levels of defense that they maintain. They'll probably gain a lot of yardage, speaking of the Buckeyes, but it's going to be very tough to punch it in once they get into the red zone. That's the MO of Pat Fitzgerald and this Northwestern Wildcat team. On the other side for Northwestern, their running back, Isaiah Bowser, incredible story. True freshman from the state of Ohio, slipped through the cracks, was not recruited or not offered by the Buckeyes, so he goes to Northwestern, and ever since the Rutgers game, he's been one of the best running backs really in college football, but specifically in the Big Ten, and they have they basically got on his shoulders, Bowser's shoulders, and he's carried him to this point. Clayton Thorson's a very good player at the quarterback position, but make no mistake about it. Northwestern wants to muddy this game up. They want to get into a fist fight. They want to take Ohio State, nullify their speed, nullify some of their pass rush, and try to get them into a close, confined type of fist fight game. If Pat Fitzgerald and his team can do that, it'll probably be close late in this ball game. If they can't, that talent and speed on the Ohio State side, we saw what it could do last week. So that game's coming up. Gus, myself, Jenny Taft will have the call Saturday night live on Fox as we crown a Big Ten champion for this season. But right now, we got a special guest. Before we get to Troy Smith, I want to go back in time. You remember last year, all of a sudden, we had a little incident. Wisconsin or Ohio State, you got some big dudes in a goal line stand, and the turf kind of came up here in the end zone, right? Hey, it happens. That's what happens at these artificial turf stadiums. It could have happened at any stadium. It wasn't specific to this game, this stadium, anything along those lines. It was just right place, right time, and all of a sudden we had to put it back together. Well, guess who put it back together? That's right, Eric Harlow right here. He's the field coordinator at Lucas Oil Stadium. Eric, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, how's it going?
It's going really well. Now, if you remember, Eric had to come out, and he had to single-handedly fix the field while everyone waited for him in the entire world. We had 10 million people watching on Fox. We had 67,000 here in the stadium, both teams, and we're all just watching Eric feverishly work on the turf. Take us through what happened and what's unique to a stadium like this when you have what I would call new end zones put in for a game like this.
Okay, so what happened, you mentioned it earlier, we had the play right here on one of the seams where the two lines met, and with all that pushing, one of the players got his leg up under the front of the end zone and was able just to push back underneath it, pop that Velcro seam wide open.
So this right here is a Velcro seam.
So yeah, there's actually Velcro here that connects the purple fibers you're seeing here to the white fibers of the goal line. It's underneath there. This is a new system. The system we had back then had seams that also ran from the goal line back to the back. And what happened was he was right on a spot where those two seams met. And so when it split apart, not only did this break apart, but the seam going back split apart.
So that's why it was a perfect storm, is you had a T. You had a vertical seam and you had the parallel seam, and the foot was just right there, and all of a sudden it kind of pops up.
And then with all that, all that weight and all that force, and when it popped open, and I mean, it just spread apart.
Okay, so when you got out here and you kind of assessed the damage, and you see that, there's this flap of field that's kind of up there, and you realize, okay, I got to fix this immediately.
Sure.
In your mind, though, I mean, did you realize that, yeah, I'm going to be able to fix this and everything's going to be fine?
So the first thing I looked at to see if the Velcro was still intact and nothing had actually ripped and shredded apart. And when I saw that that was still intact, I knew I'd be able to fix it. It'd just take a matter of time.
I mean, I hate to mention this, but what if the Velcro had ripped?
If the Velcro had ripped, we would have gone into emergency mode where we would have gotten a sewing kit out and we would have had to stick a new piece of Velcro in. It would have taken about maybe 20 or 30 minutes. Probably.
You would have literally sewn the field back together.
We would have replaced the Velcro and then restuck it, yeah.
That is incredible. Now, what else was going on is that what people don't realize, and I want to come back down here, is that when you get into these, athletic fields, in particular an NFL stadium or these places that have the college game, what you see is these rubber fibers like this. Okay, so these, and there's not just a few of these. I mean, this runs very deep. You can see I can stick my finger way down into this field, and that's all just rubber fibers. So when the field came up, Eric, that's what shocked me, is the amount of rubber that then you had to move and get all situated in order to fix that seam.
Yeah, so that rubber you were talking about is 2.5 inches deep, and there's about 860,000 pounds of that infill on the entire field. So yeah, in an area that's 4 or 6 square feet like that, there's quite a bit of infill there. And there's also sand mixed in with it too, so it's sand and rubber pellets kind of mixed in together. When those split apart and all that spilled out onto the concrete, the first thing I had to do was make sure I got most of that back out from underneath there so there wasn't a hump when I put it back together.
I mean, that's just incredible. Now, as we mentioned kind of briefly, this is a brand new surface all over. This is a brand new field here at Lucas Oil this year. It was put in this summer, and so the system in the end zone, as you mentioned, Eric, is a little bit different, and it's actually going to be much more secure. And even though, like I said, it was kind of a 1 in a million, foot in the right spot with a T right there. But I got to tell you, you were the champion of the night. If I could have given you the MVP that night, I would have on the stage, but I couldn't. I had to give it to J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I think he deserved it more than I did, but I appreciate the mention at least.
Hey, and the bright part of this, Eric got his name said on national television by Gus Johnson.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that.
I love it. All right. Hey, Eric, we hope we don't need you Saturday night. I'm sure that we won't. It looks great. Everything looks fantastic.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right. We're going to be in good shape Saturday night.
Gotta love it. Eric Harlow, thank you very much, man.
Thank you.
We promise and we deliver. Troy Smith, legend of the game, Heisman Trophy winner and great Buckeye, Heisman Trophy winner in 2006, joins us now. How you doing, man?
I'm great. How about you?
You better be great after last week. 62 points on the team up north. Were you going crazy last Saturday?
I was kind of shaking at first, to tell you the truth. The actual glimpses of their defense and some of the things that they were doing early on kind of had me rattled, but I'm not the one on the field, so I was able to chill out during game time because Haskins came out and lit them up. So it's always good, always good.
Now, how close have you stayed with the program and some of the players, in particular a guy like Dwayne, who's playing at a level that we haven't really seen at Ohio State since since you won the Heisman Trophy? There have been good quarterbacks. Right. But there's just something different about the way that he's playing, and it's very similar to the efficiency that you had.
Spot on. Being close to the program is always important, so we will remain doing that. Dwayne and myself hopefully will build a better and stronger relationship going into the future. But I know for a fact in 2018, football is totally different from when 2006 was, doing our thing. So I try my best to, I'm not saying that I stay away, but I respect what's going on. It's totally different in the terms of football, and I love it, the speed of it, the athleticism, all of the different things that Dwayne brings to the game. If it wasn't for him this year, honestly, too, with a lot of different things going on, I don't think I would have been able to fall back in love with that Ohio State quarterback play. because he's the truth.
He's so good.
Yeah.
You talk about the nature of the game. Just to give you guys some frame of reference, Troy had a remarkable season in 2006 as the Buckeye quarterback, and it took him to a national championship game. You threw for just under 3,000 yards and what was it, 36 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, 37 touchdowns?
I think it was a little less than that, but
I'll
you want to
give
give an alarming fact, just know that a lot of the games that we played my year, I got a chance to come out by the third or the end of the specific time. So, it was kind of frustrating because you want to pad the stats, but I'm living vicariously through Dwayne.
And Dwayne is throwing those numbers up. So last week,
right.
Dwayne Haskins set the new single-season records in this conference, the Big Ten Conference. He went over 4,000 passing yards and into the mid-40s in terms of touchdown passes, and they adjusted it to 6 touchdowns against Michigan last week, throwing the ball.
Why not, right?
That's why I said it. Everyone's like, hey, they're adjusting the stats. I'm like, good.
Yeah, chip away at him. Why not have all the records? He deserves it. He worked hard.
Let's stay with Dwayne because here's a young kid who comes in, and we saw glimpses of that greatness last year against Team Up North in their stadium.
Yeah,
he comes
him into the environment. That was crazy.
and they were down 6, and he comes in and he wins the game.
Yeah.
When did you realize, being around the program, knowing what they had in Dwayne, that you might have a guy that was very special and could put together a season like this?
Well, honestly, in that type situation, obviously no quarterback and guy that's a teammate wants his teammate to go down by an injury. And J.T. Barrett was our leader then. He's went on to greener pastures, doing some great things with the New Orleans Saints, and it gave Haskins his chance. It gave him, all of the limelight in that situation to show us what he could do. And he stepped up, didn't bat an eye, and now we see what type of quarterback we really have.
Yeah, we've seen that he's a remarkable quarterback and a remarkable talent. Yeah. When you see now this team get to this point, now it's a different era. You were in the BCS era. I played in the BCS era. You knew what
love the BCS,
right?
man.
I
Come
know,
on,
right?
Man, computer doing all the decisions. I love that.
Now you got 13 people in a room. One of them is the athletic director at Ohio State, Gene Smith, who obviously would be recused if they're talking about the Buckeyes or a direct comparison between the Buckeyes and, let's say, Oklahoma. Yeah. But when you see or hear, I should say hear, kind of the pundits talk about Ohio State in the debate against Oklahoma, does it make you frustrated knowing that they're getting a pass, OU, for a defense that is in the 100s on almost every statistical category, and yet the Buckeyes showed that they could play quality defense last week?
It does frustrate me. But my frustration when I sit hundreds of miles away from the real choices and decision makers really doesn't do anything for the Buckeyes. So, I swallow my pride and I understand what's going on. And honestly, too, if you go back and look at some of that footage, it kind of looks like Gene is like on punishment when he's in there. You know what I mean?
No.
Like nobody, I'm not saying that they don't let him talk, but one clip I saw everybody had Starbucks coffee and Gene's cup was just some different coffee. I'm like, dang, they just, how they gonna do my dog like that? Like, he deserves Starbucks too.
Yeah.
No, but that's just a joke. I know for a fact that, the way that the playoff series is going right now, I don't mind it. Every game is that much more important. Paul Feinbaum does do a great job at, punching us in the stomach every time he gets it.
Every chance he gets.
Oh, my God, he doesn't mind hitting Urban or hitting us where we're, below the belt, but we do crunches and we do all types of calisthenics, so we should be ready for that. But, I think that as long as we keep playing hard, things will take care of itself. We travel extremely well.
Yeah.
We all know what that dollar amount means to, whichever portion of the country that you get a chance to play in. So, that's my bid for Ohio State, man. We deserve it. We need to be in.
This game tomorrow night, Big Ten Championship, Ohio State going for their second straight Big Ten Championship. It would be back-to-back for the Buckeyes. And they face a team in Northwestern that clawed their way to this point. 0-3 in non-conference play against Akron, Duke, and Notre Dame, and yet they were 7-1 in 8-1 in the Big Ten, and they get to this point, and it's one of those teams, candidly, you don't want to see because they're so scrappy.
Exactly. I would much rather be playing them indoors and not at their home stadium because there's something about when they get.
Did you play there by any chance?